Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I can't remember if we mentioned it on episode, but here we are. The last episode, of course, that we recorded was talking about the Elimination Chamber, and we are here today to talk about AEW Revolution.
Yes, I can't recall if we said it on the air that we were going to be back in 1 week's time to talk about yet another pay-per-view.
Yeah, and as you know, if you followed this channel through the years, we cover AEW occasionally, when certain pay-per-views catch our eye, we don't cover it nearly consistently, like I said. Usually one that catches our eyes, and boy did this one catch our eye.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there was a lot to be interested about with this one. Going into it, sir, what were your thoughts heading into this pay-per-view? We obviously know the big main event was what got a lot of people interested.
Especially Greensboro, North Carolina. Do you still listen to Deadlock, the podcast?
Yeah.
So something that they say that, I would love to adopt. This was definitely a show for the boys. You know what I mean? I think a lot of this show and its match setups were for the boys.
Yeah, definitely felt that way, especially with a lot of the different matchups that were announced, you just look up and down this card, and you see a lot of that where you're just like, this is for the boys, as you put it, Especially, I think the biggest one that gave people that feeling was Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita.
Mm-hmm.
But before heading into
Will Ospreay's AEW debut, so to speak.
And, sir, going into it, did you catch the pre-show?
I did.
All right. First off, I guess, starting off with that 12-man tag, what'd you think of it? The only thing I note from it is the little story they're telling with Bullet Club and the Acclaimed.
You mean like Max Caster and Jay White?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Max Caster comes out to rap. I don't know, he flubs a line or there's a technical issue. And, I've heard about it happening on the weekly TV. So it's spilling out into here and becoming more apparent that it's on purpose.
Yeah. And I like that sort of story where it's like he's losing his touch a bit,
Yeah.
And then as far as the rest of the entire match, obviously, I'm glad to see Private Party get, this sort of highlight as they've been sort of heating up since making their return as a tag team, because I believe, I think both of them were sidelined by some type of injury, and now they're hopefully there to, breathe some fresh air into this tag division. And of course, we're going to see a lot of that later as we talk about the aftermath of the main event. But overall,
not to get too salty early, Jack, but which tag division? The AEW tag division, the ROH tag division, or either 3-man tag divisions?
Yeah, true. But overall,
hey, one thing I was looking forward to sharing with you about that 12-man tag was the Mad Lib of a finish that there was. Picture this. Picture just somebody telling you this 6 months ago. Jay White chop block Satnam Singh so that Billy Gunn can hit the Famouser and get the win. And you're like, that was a lot of information to take in.
Yeah, and then the only other spot to highlight, of course, is just that funny spot where Jeff Jarrett does his walk, and then the camera pans to outside the ring where his fellow teammates are all doing the walk on the outside as well.
Yes.
And that was pretty fun. But yeah, just a standard, multi-tag match to get a lot of guys on the card,
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we're followed with a tag match that, gets, again, more women on the card this time, but was also, really good to me. But the next match on the 0 Hour was, of course, Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander teaming against Sky Blue and Julia Hart. Sir, what do you think of this one?
It was what it was. It's, you love to see it. Women going after the TBS championship that Julia Hart, has, right? I thought she was hurt, but I'm grateful to see her out there. My one hang up that I found myself fighting against, I'm literally arguing with myself, is just Julia Hart and Sky Blue being Alexa Blisses. There's too many Alexa Blisses because it worked once and it didn't work there. We just get a lot of them. And what I mean by that is undefined spooky people who don't know why they're spooky.
Yeah,
And it doesn't play into anything.
yeah. And the one thing that I found interesting that commentary noted was that, like, I guess, like, I don't know. I guess we're gonna see where like it goes, but like commentary noted that Sky Blue isn't technically a part of the House of Black. She just sort of is like, I don't know what you would describe it as. Like they're like kind of tying into the thing you were saying about undefinedness. It's like Sky Blue has like aligned herself with Julia Hart, but
Yeah.
she's not technically a part of the House of Black. And it was funny because I remember people thinking that, you know, would Julia Hart form her sort of own like subsection of the House of Black, but commentary notes that, so I'm interested to see what comes from that.
The breakfast nook of black. The den of black. But what was I gonna say? I had a thought. I was gonna share it. Was it about the women? Oh, well, the last Julia Hart match that I saw was against Abaddon last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I love that because, you know, she comes in pretending to be spooky, and then you have Abaddon being Abaddon, and it just, I don't know, that story was better told because I'm like, yeah, I'm just here to mess you up and take your title, like, you know?
Yeah. And then from this match, Willow got the pin, so a lot of people are thinking she might soon challenge for that TBS title.
Great.
Yeah, I would welcome that one. I would definitely, especially after all the momentum that she had last year that, you know, to be fair, wasn't really AEW's credit in a sense, you know. A lot of the momentum that she gained was not only through her own work, but then like other stuff such as, you know, the Mercedes Moné match and you know, though the injury was ill-timed, you know, it helped give her a lot of momentum that a lot of people argued AEW should have better capitalized on. She did win that Women's Owen Hart tournament, but other than that, a lot of people felt they could have done a lot more, so here's hoping they do that now.
Yeah, I realized what I wanted to say. Sky Blue is the R-Truth to House of Black's Judgment Day.
Interesting. Alright, but starting the main show, we start off with now the TNT Championship. We got Christian Cage defending it against Daniel Garcia. Sir, what were your thoughts going into this one?
I want to beat you to the punch in later matches. I want to hear what you have to say about some of these matches. I was thinking about you a lot in the night. But for Daniel Garcia against not just Christian Cage, but his whole patriarchy, they're all out there. Nick Wayne, Mrs. Wayne, and Killswitch, right?
Yeah.
They all proved to be a lot for Daniel Garcia to handle.
Yeah, I was really interested in this one because, you know, especially essentially since the C2, you know, the Continental Classic tournament that they did, they've done a real good job of telling a great story with Daniel Garcia, in my opinion, you know.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing of having to get that one win, you know, like, just wanting to get that one win in the tournament to not lose completely, you know. Obviously, Daddy Magic being there to sort of mentor him through. And the one thing I kind of like is, you know, Daniel Garcia is not bad on the mic, but I like that they have Matt Menard there to sort of play off him a lot and add a lot more to those, like, backstage segments and promo segments between the two of them, you know. Sort of like, if there's any flaws that Garcia has during those segments, you know, Matt Menard is there to, like, improve on it, sort of hide it maybe sometimes, you know, like some of the flaws. And I really like that pairing and, you know, that story that they've been telling since then. And while I was thinking, you know, like, you know, realistically, Daniel Garcia could win in this match, I wasn't too upset with the finish because they're sort of doing what they kind of did with Eddie Kingston these past couple of years. And that's that, like, it's like they're making it about the chase for that moment when he does get the big win, kind of like in the tournament, but this time it's even bigger of when he wins one of these titles in AEW, it's going to be a big moment for him.
You know, his options are limited. Actually, they're not. There's so many titles. So yeah, I get you. I feel you. And I like Daniel Garcia more now than I did maybe a month ago because of the work that they did, right? I think in this match, you know, he's taking himself seriously. I love at the beginning of the match where, like, he holds the belt, takes it from the ref, holds it up, gets a big old reaction from the crowd, who, by the way, were in it to win it, this crowd.
Yeah. He just posted a real cool photo where when he made his entrance, he did his typical thing of like going to the ring rope and holding his arms out like he does, and you just see like in the background like a whole bunch of the crowd is like having their arms up like that, which just goes to show, like you said, how much people he's getting behind him.
Yeah.
The match itself, I did like that little story point where like Christian sort of fakes his foot injury at the start, but then they start turning it into like a real one where Garcia's like, well, hey, if you're gonna fake it, I'm gonna make sure it's real.
Yeah, and I love how it plays into like Christian spots, like his Goldust, strike from outside. He can't do it. His leg hurts. He rolls out instead, and the spear he like tries to hit it, but can't get a good run because of his leg.
Yeah, I did like a lot of the false finish spots, like when he hit the power driver and everyone thought that was gonna be it. I'm trying. I did like the spot where Matt Menard comes out to a huge pop, because I guess on the Collision the night before they had like taken him out, so people thought he wasn't gonna be able to be here by Garcia's side, but he comes out. He has that whole encounter with Nick Wayne's mom, and then I forget how the finish goes down. I forget how Christian exactly beats him, but I remember he gets the kill switch on him.
He does. So there's a moment where he retreats to the corner, and the ref, Aubrey, by the way, she's gonna check on him. This one's a little loosey goosey because Killswitch, the dinosaur wrestler, choke slams him from outside. I feel like they could have seen that, but Daniel Garcia's got Christian against the ropes, like choking him. Everything's a little convoluted, but Nick Wayne from outside gets Daniel Garcia in like a cutter, like across the ropes. That's what does him in, because then he hits the kill switch, the unprettier to a generation ago, for the win.
Yeah, so thought it was a pretty good match, and like I said, I'm excited to see the story. That was sort of my whole mainline thinking from a lot of these matches, was I'm excited to see the stories they tell going forward, and just wanting them to sort of keep up that momentum with a lot of different people,
Yeah.
Moving on to our next match, though, and I have no doubt this is one that you especially want to know my thoughts on, because of
yes, I do,
of both of the guys involved.
I want to know your thoughts for literally the next like 5 matches.
Yeah, so this one specifically, I was super shocked that this was going to be the second match on the card, but I was also excited that they were getting it out the way this early, so that wanted to see what a lot of people are always focused on, the main event being the penultimate match to the main event. But if I was a wrestler, I'd honestly love to have some of the first matches on the card, because that's when you get the crowd when they're most excited and not tired a lot of the times, They're the most invested. Yeah. And we saw that with this match, the match, of course, I'm talking about, the Continental, technically Triple Crown Championship match between Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. This one was amazing to me. I was so invested in just the whole story and the whole outcome of it all, because, to me, it was one that could have gone both ways, where I was like, I'll be super happy, if Eddie wins, but I'll also be super excited and happy if Danielson wins and gets a championship to his name.
I agree, sir. And I was invested in everything going into this match, because it's not just a Continental Crown match, but also if Bryan Danielson loses, he has to shake the King of the Bum's hand and respect him. And truthfully, Jack, I was less aware that this was for Eddie's championship. And if I knew it was, it probably would have colored how I watched it, because I thought, oh man, Danielson ain't gonna shake nobody's hand. Are you crazy? I'm like, and he just lost to Okada and Zack Sabre Jr. in 2 giant profile matches. I'm like, that man needs a W, and Eddie's gonna give it to him. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and also the whole thing, like adding to it, again, I just loved the story that they told. I know to a lot of people, they felt it wasn't like as directly told, but I really liked the story of like the fact that Eddie's so beloved, but like he has to deal with the fact that, like, even when he's being a real jerk, the fans, are still behind Danielson. They still love him to the point where even though Eddie's, one of the people's champions in AEW, they'll go ahead and call him a bum just because Danielson's the one telling them to. And then I like that little like mini story that they did where Danielson was facing a lot of like former Triple Crown champions. He ends up facing Eddie's idol Yun Akiyama and completely disrespects him. I believe he also low billed him on an episode of Collision, and that's what got Eddie super furious. And getting to the match itself, I love Nigel McGuinness on this match for many reasons. One is that, he kind of sets the story for this match for you by already telling you that, like, he knows Danielson can't go, chop for chop, blow for blow with Kingston, so he's going to try that more technical approach to it. But then I also love the fact that you're like, does he really like Eddie, and is he really wanting to support Eddie? He obviously knows Eddie from back then, so it could be a thing of like he knows Eddie and is rooting for him, or is he just trying to further his case in the Hater of the Year award candidacy, and just truly hating on Danielson to the point where he'll root for a guy like Eddie Kingston as long as Bryan Danielson doesn't win.
Yeah, I vote the latter. I was super into Bryan, needing to neutralize the strikes, right? Yeah. Going to the ground or trying to catch his arm. Like once that he got after that shoulder, he's going to target it. But Eddie being Eddie Kingston, he's telling him, come at me. Do it again. Hit me harder.
Yeah, I like the spot where he gets him for the kicks. And after one kick, Eddie just looks at him and then he pulls the straps down. He's like, come on, hit me as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And then going to the whole thing of trying to neutralize the chop, I loved that spot where, Eddie's chopping him on the outside and Danielson starts like backing away until he gets to the ring post. And it becomes a whole strategic thing where you just think, oh, Eddie's chopping him, and that's just a simple spot. And then he gets to the ring post, and for the final chop, he ducks, and Eddie's hand hits that ring post, and that's what causes Danielson to start targeting the hand for Eddie to not be able to use it as hard. And we saw that when he hit the Hurricane, and Danielson's able to kick out, and McGuinness makes note that, because that hand is injured, he doesn't think Eddie got full power behind that Hurricane. Because if not, he doesn't think Danielson would kick out normally.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. There's a triangle choke, right? We think Eddie's done for. The ref's gonna. It's funny how the ref calls for the bell, or maybe he checks the arm, or maybe he's just looking for like a facial cue. Little artist, artist license or creative liberty with that one, but we're gonna go for the arm, and picks Eddie's arm up. Eddie's arm doesn't fall, but he's giving everyone a thumbs up that he's to win it.
Yeah, and I also like that, like they were mentioning that, like look at Eddie's face, like he looks purple in this triangle hold, like really selling the fact that like he could pass out here. And then, of course, we get that final moment where Danielson tries to hit a Busaiku knee, gets countered. Eddie hits that power bomb and gets the win.
A very Gunther-like power bomb.
Yeah. Huge power bomb, gets that win. And then we get that sort of moment at the end where it looks like Danielson's just going to disrespect him and, not give him his props, not follow the stipulations of the match. And Eddie gets a bit mad to the point where when Danielson finally does go, he thinks, that it's just going to be more disrespect, but that's when Danielson not only shakes his hand, but holds up Eddie's arm, in victory.
One of my favorite parts of the night is Danielson going to raise his arm, but he's going to raise his bad arm that he's been working over, and Eddie goes, no, raise my left one, raise my left one.
Yeah, I really love that. Should be obvious if you've heard me so much on So Often Talk before when we do AEW shows. Absolutely loved this match. Absolute favorite from the night. An obvious contender, early contender for the match of the year list. Absolutely loved this one.
I have a question for you, Jack. You saw at World's End, right?
Yeah.
Which match did you like more? Eddie versus Danielson or Eddie versus Mox?
That's a tough one, but I think I'm more inclined to let my bias speak and give it to the Danielson match.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's mainly just. I mean, it's a tough one. They were both so great, you know.
Yeah.
It's always tough when these, promotions do their year-end events like that, because then you and I don't get to talk about them if they make our end-of-the-year list. But that was a really good one for me. To me, it's just so difficult because they both had really great stories and real great action to them.
Yeah. I think I'm inclined to like the Mox one more just because he has so much more power moves. This was a technical spectacle, but Eddie's not a technical guy, so this isn't quite Zack Sabre Jr.
True, I get
he
that.
was better paired with Moxley, but I enjoyed this one too. But I found myself thinking about the other one.
Yeah, and then the other thing that also weighs on me with this match is just the fact that with the fact that we know Danielson's full-time career is coming to a close, and he's going to sort of start going part-time, it just makes you upset that you're just like, why can't this man be selfish and let himself be booked to win a championship? 3 years, we're coming up on 3 years in AEW, and the man just wouldn't allow himself to win even a single championship in this promotion. And it's just like,
and there's so many. Again, trying not to be too salty. There is so many.
Yeah, not even a tag or trios run with the BCC.
And he's got 3 of them.
Yeah.
Danielson could have 1.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm wondering.
Your championship. It's got Danielson's name written all over. I think he held it 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, and the thing that's also the other thing that confuses me about all of this, because it's 3 separate promotions. Technically, 2 of the titles are obviously owned by Tony Khan, but it's just it makes me wonder, because they refer to it as the Triple Crown. It's are all promotions in agreement that these 3 titles are together? Or are we going to see the Continental Classic be its own thing, the Ring of Honor Championship, the New Japan Strong one be its own thing? That's the
I heard you say that Eddie was defending his Triple Crown. I actually think he was just defending his most recent acquisition.
Yeah,
not the Ring of Honor one, and not the New Japan one.
Yeah, see, because I know also, I think is it Coughlin in New Japan was challenging Eddie, and he said he only wanted the Strong title. He didn't want any of the other
nice
stuff attached to it. So it just makes you wonder when Eddie eventually loses one of these titles, what's going to happen? Because the whole thing was, at least when it came to Eddie Kingston's win, it was built around being the Triple Crown champion, So that's another point of, going forward, I wonder how they're going to handle this.
I think he's going to lose it in Ontario in May.
Well, moving on to our next match, we had another multi-man match, one that was originally supposed to be something different, was altered to later include all the participants that this match had. It's the All-Star 8-Man Scramble, which I guess later on they added the stipulation that you get a shot at, I don't know if it's the world title or just any title. I believe it's the world title. But we have Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, Lance Archer, Wardlow, Dante Martin, Hook, Brian Cage, and Magnus in this 8-man scramble match.
Magnus, a representative of CMLL, because you know what we needed, Jack? With 2 full rosters of wrestlers, a 3rd roster.
Yeah, I found this interesting. I didn't see when they had announced mainly almost everyone in this match. As I mentioned, It was supposed to be another type of match, because I saw when they had originally announced just Wardlow, Lance Archer, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Then they later announced all these, and it was funny because I was like, man, that's such a weird assembly of wrestlers, And then that's when I saw someone make the joke of Chris Jericho saw he wasn't on the card, and so he forced himself into this match.
Did you hear about what Tony Khan said at that press conference about Meat Madness being canceled?
I had heard something about that certain guys were injured or not available. That's all I had pretty much heard.
Yeah, I think he mentions by name Keith Lee and Miro. But I think whether they were involved, whether the original participants were involved, or this 8-man scramble, I feel like it was always destined to be just a hot mess.
Yeah,
I don't think it was ever not going to be a hot mess.
Yeah, that's how I personally felt about it. I'm going to be completely honest. I got hungry by this point in the pay-per-view and went to make myself food.
Yeah, Jack, I'm gonna hit you with a couple of matches that like I'm not 100% paying attention.
Yeah, so with this one is like I watched a bit of it, obviously, just to be fair and
Yeah,
all that. But for the most part, it was just like it was a multi-man match that was chaotic. Got a bunch of guys different spots, and
yeah.
you see Wardlow get the win.
The end. Like when the four meaty guys throw out the four less meaty guys, you have a meat thing. It's crazy how much fun the crowd has in just chanting meat.
Yeah,
They before with Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs.
yeah,
Like this was, I think, building on that popularity, and I was surprised. I'm like, okay, Greensboro, you came to have a good time.
yeah. I was very surprised by the Greensboro crowd. They were really on it tonight.
Jack, were you going for Wardlow? I mean, maybe if you knew about the title shot.
I mean, once they announced the title shot, I kind of realized it was Wardlow's to win. But even before that, I was just kind of like, this is probably Wardlow's match because they're not really doing much with really anyone else that's involved in here,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I wasn't really going for Wardlow, but it was like, I guess it makes the most sense. I mean, the one thing I'm like just sort of most upset by when it comes to like this match is sort of like two things. One is the fact that Powerhouse Hobbs really isn't doing much at this point.
Yeah.
That the Don Callis family really hasn't helped out much of the guys that have been involved in it, and in some ways it's made them not necessarily worse, but like it's definitely made them less interesting a lot of the times. And then the only issue I have with like the Wardlow thing is thinking back to last year around this same time when him and Samoa Joe were having their like, I don't even know if it was a trilogy of matches, but they had a couple matches and they weren't the most entertaining to say the least.
No, so you get the sense that Wardlow, based on recent promos, was going to win this. But I got a soft spot in my heart for Brian Cage. I get the hate though. Like he's an interesting character or lack thereof. And on the big time televised show, you can't call yourself Swolverine. But I'd have been happy if it went his way. Lance Archer's another guy that we're not doing enough with. Like, how tall do you have to be? How nimble or athletic or dynamic or exciting do you have to be to do anything with?
Yeah, he's always a good fill-in for a good championship feud.
I'm just saying, do something with him. Do something. Yeah. No one thought in a billion years Magnus was going to do anything. No one thought in a jillion years Dante Martin was going to do anything, even though he got a near fall. I was so surprised by that.
Yeah, but pretty much, like we said, just got a lot of people on the card. But at the same time, you look at this match and you think it either could have gone on the pre-show or it could have happened on Dynamite. Why are we, it's not to hate on all these guys, but why are we wasting time with matches like this when it could be dedicated to other matches on the card? Or even what we'll talk about later, what ended up getting cut from the end of the show because we didn't have enough time left on the show.
I blame Jericho.
I blame Jericho as well. Moving on to our next match, and you brought up Deadlock earlier. This was definitely a match for them because they have long supported one of the guys in this match, the AEW International Championship match, Orange Cassidy defending against Roderick Strong.
Oh my. This was one I was looking forward to, Jack.
Yeah, same. Especially because it's weird. Lately, you saw a lot of people, looking at this match and being like, Roderick Strong's going to come win this title and all that. And a lot of people took it as people hating on Orange Cassidy when it was really just, if this second title reign kind of felt unnecessary, especially with the way they booked it, Because when he first lost it to Moxley, everyone felt that was the perfect conclusion to his title reign, to the story that he was having with that title. And then obviously Moxley gets injured, so they give it to Phoenix, and then Phoenix drops it to Cassidy because I believe he also got injured. And everyone's looking at that, and they were kind of somewhat telling an interesting story at the start of this second reign, where it looked like Cassidy was like, I don't know, I think desperate would be the best word, because it's like he had that mindset of like, I lost this once, I'm glad to get it back and I want to hold on to it. But then they sort of went back to that whole similar thing of his first reign, where he was just defending it against anybody, and kind of having the same style of match in a sense, where it was like there was no urgency behind a lot of it. And this reign, definitely less than the first reign, had more like probable challengers in a sense, because you think back to his first reign and there was so many different matches where you thought he was losing, like against Swerve.
Yes.
I'm trying to. Well, it's hard to think back because of all the defenses he had, but that's the one I always think of, where everyone thought Swerve was beating him for that title, and it's like you think to stuff like that, and then you look at what they've done recently. It's like it's not like I said, it's not people hating on him. It's just wanting something new, wanting them to move on from something that felt a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, this is the era of long-term champions, and he's one that, like many, they're just wanted and ready to move on. And so we're going into this match, right? And it's been a minute since I've seen a Roderick Strong match, and I wonder if he's going to like really lean into the Messiah of the backbreaker stuff that he used to do. And then the pre-show, the comment, like the person in the back is interviewing him, so he's saying, "Hey, I heard you have a real messed up back," and I go, "Oh." And he tells the good best friends, "Hey, I don't want you guys getting hurt on account of me, so stay back here." And I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, and not only that, but then you have the doc telling him he can't go out and wrestle unless he tapes up his back and ribs entirely.
Yes. Just put a big old red target on there. My gosh.
Yeah, and target that back Roderick did. He was hitting all the different backbreakers that he has in his arsenal. The most brutal one is the one he hits on the turnbuckle. And
yes,
props to Cassidy for the way he bumps and sells that, especially the way he just contorted his body on that sell made it look really good.
I have one hang up about the match. There's a near fall for Orange Cassidy. I forget, he hits a move that they call something, but Roderick Strong breaks up the pin by grabbing the rope. And my only hang up is we seen that not but 2 matches ago when Christian Cage did the same thing.
Yeah, and a part of me almost wants to say it happened in this match as well. Maybe I'm just misremembering, but I could have sworn there was even like a spot before where it wasn't his hand, but like his leg got on the rope or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So it just kind of felt redundant a bit to do that.
A little bit.
Yeah, I did like that when he was trying to hit that beach break. He was really selling that back injury, and then to the point where he needed to like help. He needed the rope to help him get it up for that.
I love too. He's doing the Orange Cassidy kicks, the little light ones, but he doesn't do them for long. He starts laying into them because he's like, "I'm over this. I'm over this character."
Yeah, and then Roderick Strong gets the win, breathing new life into this international championship. People are excited for him to sort of do that similar thing that Cassidy was doing. They're pretty much establishing this one as the workhorse title. A lot of defenses, a lot of open challenges. Now, we'll see if that's to come because, Roddy's a heel, right now. So we'll see how he approaches this title. But gets that win, like I said, breathes new life. And then the thing I'm most upset about is the fact that I stepped away at the wrong moment and ended up missing what happened at the end of this match or at the aftermath.
I also stepped away, Jack, and I only heard everything. I had to go on Instagram to see what the heck happened. It's so funny. I was literally, a room or two away from my TV when I hear, "What the?"
Yeah, I come back and it had already moved on to I think a backstage segment or a promo or whatever. I forgot what it was. And then I get on my phone. I'm like, oh, that was a pretty good match. Let me see, what's happening. And then I just see Kyle O'Reilly. I'm like, what did I miss? I stepped away for 2 seconds.
It's funny you say Kyle O'Reilly, sir, but what I saw was a retired war veteran, displaced war veteran, wandered into the ring. He's got long hair and a long beard. He's in his, like, workout clothes, a t-shirt and shorts. I'm like, is it supposed to sell how long he's been gone? Like they do in movies or TV shows, right?
Yeah, that's the funny thing I saw with someone point out. They were like, Kyle O'Reilly looks like someone who basically had the past like year and a half, almost 2 years gone for I think it was a neck injury that he had, or like a back injury, something like that. They were like, he really sold it in terms of showcasing how long he's been gone just off of appearance alone.
And what was he here to do, Jack? Did he beat everyone up? Did he join the Undisputed Kingdom?
He hugged Roderick Strong, congratulating him on his win. The Kingdom handed him a shirt, and he just hands it back and walks off, and very much confuses the Kingdom. So either a feud is coming, maybe he's going to be, persuaded to join them, who knows.
It's very funny, though, how he, like, sneaks up on them, enters the ring to hug Roderick Strong, and to leave everyone wondering what the heck is going on.
Yeah, definitely felt a bit odd. But moving on to our next match, this is one that was very fitting for the crowd and the place that we were taking place from. We have, the good old Southern tag team of FTR facing off against Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli,
who are wearing shoulder pads with spikes on them and a tribute to the Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors.
Yeah, that very much threw me off a bit, because I was just like, that's a bit random. I was like, I get why they're doing it, but it feels a bit random for Mox and Claudio, out of all people, to...
It's like against their character, too. This reminds me of Wrestle Kingdom when Moxley came out dressed as Red Hood, and you go, oh, are you a nerd after all? Like, you're supposed to be the tough lads who just like jujitsu and, like, beating people up. You're not supposed to like theatrics. You're the antithesis of theatrics.
Yeah, I found it so odd, but I was like, okay. Sir, did you feel the same way about this match, where it felt kind of slow at the start?
Yes.
It definitely felt that way to me, where I was like, this is like it despite having previous matches, it still felt like they were like, let's start this match out with like a feeling out process, and it's like, that makes sense if you didn't already previously have a tag match.
I kind of felt the slowness at the beginning. What I definitely did feel was this was a long match.
Yeah, it definitely was. But despite its length, I really enjoyed the final 5-10 minutes of this, where it turned into like an absolute sprint almost, of just all the near falls and all the different high spots that they had. And of course, I'm pretty sure it was likely, a hardway spot. I don't think he bladed, but that Dax getting busted open really added to this match a lot, especially the drama of it all, because it was you could tell that wasn't, at least in my eyes, it didn't feel like it was a planned spot. And to see the way he got busted open, it just sort of added to the drama to me. I really liked the intensity that they started wrestling with after that point, where it was almost like in his head he was like, well, I got a limited amount of time and adrenaline to capitalize on after being busted open like this.
Here's how limited his time was. That match went for 21 minutes and 47 seconds, and it's the longest match so far.
Oh, dang.
And I agree with you, Jack, that it ended on a good 5. But I think watching reviews and listening to people, comment on wrestling, I really feel like I catch myself believing, I believe you, Jack, that it was a really solid last 5 minutes. We should have got to those 5 minutes sooner. Yeah. What did we do to get there? There's a ton of false finishes. There's you don't drive, do you, Jack?
No.
This car was on a highway, and there were a lot of exits that it passed that it should have taken.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way a lot of times, where, it's not to tell people what to think, but a lot of times I like you said, look at the reviews, look at what people are saying, and it makes me think that a lot of times people are letting the sort of final moments sort of cloud their judgment of the rest of the match, you know, because
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't cloud my thinking because I agree. Like it ended well, but there are a lot of good endings that you wasted. Like we did a doomsday device into a power slam.
Yeah,
that was not the end.
Yeah, or
what are we doing for?
Or when they got that like desperation spike pile driver off. And I thought that was going to be the finish, and then it wasn't.
How about the big swing into a drop kick into his face?
Yeah, and then like for the finish, after all that like sprint, it's Moxley hitting the Death Rider for the win. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that, and then like to me, it's like I thought, like I said, the final 5, 7, 10-ish like minutes of the match were really good. That especially that full on sprint, but yeah, it definitely felt long to me. Where like I was watching it, and I was thinking whatever, and then of course when those final minutes happened, I was like, oh well, that was pretty great, but the start of it all was pretty slow, especially getting to this point.
Here's another great analogy, Jack. I'm going to call it great. It's my analogy. This match was a Rock promo of a match. It went over time. It was fun, yes. Did I enjoy lots of moments in it? Yes. Did I rewatch it later? Yes. But it went over. It went over time.
Oh, man. But
Did you see that Rock promo on Friday?
I had heard that it was like a 40-minute Bloodline promo or something.
It was a 40-minute Rock promo. No, like I guess Roman was out there for a minute, and The Rock came out to cut time out of Tiffany Stratton's match. But Jack, it's like one of the greatest pieces of television ever. He's 1999 himself. He did in 2024 anything he said. No, he said horrible things to those people in Phoenix. You know what they did? They cheered.
Oh man. But like I said, Mox and Claudio get the win here, which definitely confused some people. But I did like that throughout it, commentary kind of hinted at what the future holds, and that could potentially be a BCC tag run, because they mentioned that like Mox and Claudio are really sort of singles guys, but these past couple of weeks they've been like getting more reps in as like a tag team, and like that could be in their future, is looking towards one of those titles.
Jack, how many minutes we have?
On this episode, we have about 2 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Goodness, we've got a lot of show left to talk about.
Yeah, I believe we still have about, what is that, 4 matches left, I believe?
4.
Yeah, so definitely got a lot to cover. Talk more about it in part 2. Thank you all for joining for this episode. We'll catch y'all on the next one.